What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Neighborhood Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin Valentin.
It's your boy Kyle Darrow, co-host of the Neighborhood Podcast. Kevin, what's good, man?
I'm chilling, man, chilling. We are in the midst of watching greatness, and I mean not physically because I don't have the channel, but we are going to talk about a couple and a number of different things today. Today, we're going to talk about Stephen Curry's historical run. Well, maybe not historical, but chasing a historical run. He is just on an absolute tear. And when I said currently, I'm watching on my laptop, like we keep refreshing the game cast. Steph Curry is on pace to score another 30-point game. But like I said, we'll get into it in a couple minutes. So we're going to talk about Steph's pretty ridiculous run. We're going to talk about the sudden retirement of LaMarcus Aldridge. We are going to talk about the absolute ridiculous foolishness of the Justin Fields mock draft position. They have him going 20. Somebody has him going 24th on the latest mock draft. And then we're going to talk about the retirement of Julian Edelman. I know Kyle put up a video earlier this week. That's his boy. That's a personal fan favorite of his. But we're going to get a little bit more into depth and get into kind of a make your case of whether or not Julian Edelman is a Hall of Famer. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Luka Doncic, somewhere kind of involved there, probably somewhere in between the NBA conversations that we have and his game winner from last night. So we got a lot on the plate today. And like I said, we're going to start it off with Steph Curry, man. I've been telling Kyle, and I just started like crazy, and I never do that. I've been telling Kyle for the last 2-3 weeks, this man has been just eating the league up. And I know we talked about it last episode, but since our last episode, Steph dropped 53, 42, and he's on pace to drop 30. The third just ended. Steph has 25. He's averaging 30.7 points per game, shooting 49% from the field and 42.4% from the three-point line. Like Kyle said on Sunday, or when the episode came out Monday, he's single-handedly trying to carry this fucking team into the postseason. And I think it's ridiculous that he's putting these numbers up. Like I said, we already talked about this on Monday, but the pace didn't just step up or stay consistent. After the episode, he dropped 53, 42, and then he's about to do 30 again. Like, the consistency he's doing this with is insane. And it's Kobe-esque. We talked about Kobe's crazy performances in the early 2000s and how he scored like basically he averaged like 40-something points in a 2-week span. And it was incomprehensible. So Steph's averaging, if Kyle, we talked about it right before the episode. I want to say, what'd you say, 39 in the month of April, and we're 15 days in?
Yep, so it's half the month left.
What are you shitting me right now?
It's freaking crazy, bro. It was like I said, he's averaging 39.8 points per game in April, and that's only through 7 games so far. He missed the one game against the Raptors where he was just on the sideline. He didn't play in that game. And in this month of April, this 7-game stretch that he's had so far, he's averaging 56% from the field in the process of him just torching the league or every game that he plays in so far. This is just, it is what it is with Steph. I go on and on about this guy. This guy is one of the greatest shooters, if not the greatest shooter that we've seen in NBA history. And look, he had to step up after James Wiseman I gotta say this right. When James Wiseman went out after tearing his meniscus, I can't believe that took me 3 times to actually get it. And he is just going above and beyond trying to carry this team. I mentioned it in the episode on Monday that he had to average somewhere in between 35 to 40 points a game for the Warriors to get dragged to the playoffs. At best, they're probably going to make the 8th or the 7th seed, and that's probably pushing it. And Steph is just going out there and trying to make it happen. I mean, when you look at the last couple games that he's had, I know you mentioned the 53 the day after that we recorded. When they played against the Thunder, he dropped 42. If you go back to last week, dropped 38 against the Rockets, 32 against the Wizards, 41 against the Bucks, and 37 against the Hawks. And then in the first game of the month against the Heat, he dropped 36. It's like,
He's not doing it to scrubs. He's doing it to competitive teams.
I don't know what else you want more from this guy. This guy's going out here and just putting on a show. I mean, this is must-see basketball. And I know Golden State doesn't have the best record to show it this year, but I wish that fans could actually go to these games in like 100% attendance, because what you're seeing on the court from Steph deserves to have a full capacity arena watching what he's doing, because it's just magic out there on the court. Now, the thing is he going to cool off towards the end of the month? I highly doubt it, because he's going to have to go out here and probably shoot somewhere between 20 to 25 shots a game. He's going to be the primary shooter on this team. Maybe Andrew Wiggins chips in and tries to get maybe like 15 to 20 points. Maybe Kelly Oubre.
He's got 17 right now.
So, and they're playing Cleveland right now. So we'll figure, you guys will probably find out by tomorrow when this gets dropped that the Warriors are going to win this game against Cleveland. But
yeah, I don't know if Steph's going to go back. There's 8 minutes left in the game. I didn't even realize.
It doesn't really matter at this point. I just think that what Steph's doing out in the court right now is just insane. And if he keeps it up for the next month or so, because the playoffs start in the middle of May, actually the later part of May. If he keeps this up in somewhere, because he's going to cool off maybe a little bit. I don't know if he's going to keep this stretch where he's averaging damn near 40 in the month of April. But if he can maintain like a 30 to 35 for the rest of the month, by the end of the month, he's probably going to average like 35, 36. He's doing what he needs to do. And there's not much more I can say other than that. He's cooking, bro. I mean, it's Steph Curry. He's just whipping it up in the pot. I don't know what else you want more from him.
First of all, the fact that I didn't start this episode properly. Mike, if you're watching this, I know you haven't watched an episode in quite some time. Shout out to Mike fucking Casada, because that's my boy, who is an all in all, through and through fucking Warriors fan, Steph Curry diehard every day. And the fact that this man called at such a young age, when we were in high school, that this kid was going to be one of the greats was ridiculous. Like, I knew the kid could shoot, but the fact that, when we were young, Steph had the ankle injuries on and off. Steph was undersized. He was very skinny. The Golden State wasn't very good. So it was like, I was like, bro, you're tripping. The fucking 190-pound kid out of fucking Davidson soaking wet is not going to do anything. And man, did he prove everybody in the world wrong. And it only took the kid about 6-7 years to dominate the league, because he won his first MVP in 2015. They won their championship in 2015. He was drafted in 2009, right?
I believe so. I could look it up.
So we're talking a 6-7 year span of a guy absolutely getting better with every year that passes, becoming obviously known for being the best shooter of all time. When he hangs it up, he'll have all the 3-point records. I mean, he shatters his records damn near what seems to be every year in terms of total 3 points made in the season, 3-point percentage, and so on and so forth. He just passed Wilt Chamberlain the other day for Golden State's all-time leading scorer. And his accolades just continue to pile up. 3-time champion, 2-time MVP, about to be the fucking all-time 3-point leader in NBA history. Just forget about it. So, I mean, I just wanted to make this episode and start it off right and pay homage to one of the greatest basketball players we are witnessing. Yes, he's not LeBron James. No, he's not Kobe Bryant. No, he's not Michael Jordan. He's not Wilt or Kareem. But for the position and the skill set that he brings to the table, he is by far the best. And he's not just a shooter. The man can dribble. The man can finish at the rim. The man is a great free throw percentage shooter. The man is a great teammate, a facilitator, and he can rebound. I mean, he's not the greatest point guard rebounder. He's not the greatest passer, but he is such a well-packaged and well-balanced player that his shooting overlooks everything else. Everybody always knows Steph for shooting, but he gets players involved, and he is one hell of a fucking basketball player overall. And I think people need to give this man a lot more respect than he's given, because when he was out last year and he struggled at the beginning of this year, bro, people came for his neck and said he'll never be the same. He's washed. He needs Clay. He needs KD. And we are more than 3/4 of the way done with the year. and he is years in basketball this season, and he's just cooking. And just like Kyle said, Steph Curry is back with a vengeance. He's chasing an MVP, which doesn't matter to him, but to all of us watching, the pace he's on. Obviously, we have other candidates that we've talked about a multitude of times. I'm not going to get into that, but we're just saying, like, he is making a name for himself and making a case like, yo, I'm fucking here. I may not get it, but I'm pushing for this shit. And I think that Steph Curry he deserves rightfully at least a few votes for that award, man, because he's cooking right now, and there's no other word for it.
When you're averaging damn near 40 in a month, and like the lowest point total is like 31 in that stretch, you're talking about Kobe-esque numbers. I know Kobe had a bunch of stretches where he just dominated every game that he played in. I remember there was like a stretch where Kobe had like a 10-game stretch where he averaged like damn near like 45 points a game. Like it was just ridiculous. I know he had the 60 and then the 50-50. Like he had more than 50 points in 4 straight games. Now, Steph's not doing that, but Steph's damn near close to it. And they need it. Golden State needs his production, because if they don't get it from him on a consistent basis, they're not going to make the playoffs. It's like I said, I mentioned it the other day. He had to average somewhere in between 35 to 40 points a game to drag this team, this Golden State team, to the playoffs. And he's doing a great job of it so far. It's just, can he continue this? He's more than capable of doing it. And as long as he is not playing in excess of minutes, and I think Steve Kerr is actually doing a pretty good job with managing his minutes, I don't really see him slowing down that much. It's like we've said before, though. Like, this is Steph Curry. Steph Curry is probably the most impactful player of this generation, simply just because of how he revolutionized the three-point shot and how it's just become one of the biggest staples in the offensive side of basketball. You need to have shooters that can consistently knock down these three-point shots. Steph started that, and he is just continuing that evolution of the game in these huge stretches where he's just going out and dominating everybody. Granted, I know Golden State's not the best team, but it ain't because of Steph. Steph's going out here and
sure as shit. No way.
Steph is going out here and doing everything that he humanly possibly can do to get this team to the playoffs. Granted, we still got a month left until the playoffs. Can he solely carry this team to it?
Golden State,
I'd say maybe
one game behind the 8th seed, behind Memphis.
They got a month. They got a month to take Memphis. Yeah, they could get that.
Yes.
Yeah, they could get that.
Bro, I forgot to mention to everybody in the audience, Steph scored 42 in 3 quarters. Steve Kerr pulled him in the 4th.
Yeah.
So let that be noted. That's another 12 minutes. He could have had 50 back-to-back nights. And the Warriors are up by, I want to say, another 14, 15 points against Cleveland in Cleveland, and it's like 5 minutes left. So Steph could have scored 50 in back-to-back games and for sure had another 30-point game. But like Kyle just said, Kerr is doing a very good job at managing his minutes and his load, because if Steph overplays, we do know that with that tailbone injury that he sustained this season and his previous injury history with the ankles, there's no reason to overwork the soul and entire being of your whole team right now. And I'm telling you that coach player tandem, that relationship is one we haven't seen in a very, very long time.
The fact that he's shooting 56% of the field with him shooting the volume of shots that he's taking, mind you, he's shooting like 20, 25 shots a game, and he's still that efficient. Granted, I know he's not having the best night as far as three-point shooting goes against Cleveland. But when you look at some of these the last 3 to 4 games, I think he knocked down like 27 threes in the last 3 games. Like, it's the most in like NBA history in like a 3-game stretch. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, he broke that. That was his own record.
He's ridiculous. Like, I don't want to say we'll never see this again, because I think you'll see kind of similar players in the future kind of do something similar to what Steph's doing right now. It's just that
Trae Young is the closest in the next generation.
It's just the frequency at what is happening here and how Steph is doing it is just, it's unmatched. And it's going to be a very long time before we see really anybody do the things that he's doing.
Like I said, I think Trae Young's the closest we're going to get because of the volume of shots that Trae puts up a game as well, and his ability to shoot and his ball handling skills. Again, he is also an undersized guard, but he is shorter than Steph and plays in Atlanta. Anyway, another stat for our stat people that love to watch. Steph Curry leads NBA history with most games with 10 or more 3-point shots made, with 19. The closest person is Clay with 5.
That's not a gap, dude. That's an ocean.
He's made 10 or more threes in a game 19 times. Bro, can someone just give him a fucking gold put him in the Hall of Fame now? Like right the fuck now. We're watching history. I'm not saying he's the greatest player of all time by any means, so please nobody get this misinterpreted for that. But what he's doing is once in a lifetime, bro. This man is just shooting the lights out and doing it at a clip that is, like Kyle said a multitude of times, at a Kobe Bryant level. And I'm going to leave it at that because I'm just going to continue to repeat myself because this man, he missed the whole season last year to a broken hand, and he's coming this season and say, yo, bro, don't forget who the fuck I am.
You low-key sound like a Warriors fan right now, my guy. I know you're a Mavericks fan.
I hate playing against him because, like I said a few weeks ago, that man dropped like 56 on my head. Thankfully, we still won. But it's like watching him, and then when my team plays against him, obviously I always cheer for my boys. But like, bro, when I watch him, he's just one of those players you want to cheer for. To me, I know a lot of people hate him and find him arrogant. They hate the fact that he shoots, turns around, he shimmies and shit. Well, bro, in my opinion, there's so many more arrogant players in this league and cocky and fucking James Harden and Kevin Durant. Like, people just have that showboat. LeBron James, they just have that moxie, that fucking face, like, bro, I'm the fucking best. Like, bro, Steph is just shooting a shot. If he misses, he misses. Like, he's just that confident because he's the greatest shooter of all time that when he shoots, he feels like it's going to go in every time. I don't fucking care if you shimmy on the sideline, bro. You're fucking up 16. Celebrate. People so soft nowadays. They act like other NBA players don't do worse. They don't bang on their chest. They don't fucking do the fucking press the floor. That, like, man, we're talking about a shooter versus a million other players in this league that do so much worse. I love this guy. I love watching him. Like you said, must-see basketball when the Warriors play.
If these players got a problem with him doing all the little shenanigans or the little shimmies whenever he does it, go try to stop him. You got a problem with it, stop him.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if you're going to be able to lock him up or lock him down, but put somebody on him that can at least stand a chance against him, for God's sakes.
Last point, if people, like you said, I'm just rolling off of what you said. If people got such a problem with him, if people don't like him, and you can't guard him, and the little things that he's doing, the little antics, what are we going to do? We're going to continue to hate somebody that's literally unguardable? Do we hate Braun when he dunks on somebody? Do we hate Damian Lillard when he pulls from the logo? Do we hate Luka Doncic and James Harden when they do their step backs? Did we hate Kobe Bryant's underbite or jersey bite? Did we hate Hoodie Melo, masked Kyrie, like the list, untucked Kyrie, should I say, gang sign John Wall? Nobody hates those players.
Or Michael Jordan doing the
nobody hates those players, right? But they hate the guy that beat LeBron James a multitude of times. KD and all that yeah. But they hate a 6'3", light-skinned, light-eyed sharpshooter. But they don't hate the guys that showboat all day, every day, and act like they walk on water. That's all I'm going to say. So the next topic we getting into is the sudden and kind of shocking surprise retirement of LaMarcus Aldridge. Kyle, we both texted each other relatively at the same exact time. LaMarcus retired due to some health complications today from the NBA after 15 seasons, after just being acquired by the Brooklyn Nets in a buyout from San Antonio. This was his shot at getting a ring, and he walked away. We both agreed off air that we thought it was for the right reasons. Not that our opinions matter, but I mean, when you have a condition such as LaMarcus's, do you agree that this was the right decision for him and his family?
Yeah, it's 100%. Like, he had an irregular heartbeat. Like, he has nothing left to prove. Like, he's been in the league for 15 years. He's been one of the most consistent power forwards that we've seen in this league, like for the last decade plus, whether it was on Portland or even the last couple of years in San Antonio, and then the little stint that he had with Brooklyn this year. But I mean, hypothetically, if the Nets do win up the finals this year, he's going to get a ring, just because he was.
He only played a few games though.
He's gonna get a ring, whether he was only on the roster for 5 games. Brooklyn is going to make a ring for him. It doesn't.
Yeah, but as a player, I mean, I'm not going to get into another segment while you're breaking down this news, but I don't know if you've ever seen semi-pro. It's like someone that rides the bench all the way at the end but never plays gets a ring. I mean, if LaMarcus only plays 5 games, he gets a compensatory ring or a compensated ring, whatever the fuck the word is. But he didn't deserve it. He didn't earn it. You know what I'm saying? 5 games though.
I mean, does Kyrie really deserve one with all the games that he's missed?
No, but Kyrie played significantly more games. So you can't compare.
Listen, I know. I'm kind of joking when I mention that, just because.
Don't be a dick, man.
I'm just saying. It's like, look, to get back on the LaMarcus here. It's sad. I hate when a player's career ends because of just, I don't know if this was a life-threatening injury. What happened?
Steph dropped 33 to finish the game. He came back just to get 30.
You're happy for your boy. He's your boy, bro. At this point, there
was no reason to come back, bro. Like, Steve Kerr say, "Bro, I get 30."
There you go. So at least Steve did him a solid there. Can I talk about LaMarcus?
I'm sorry, bro. I hit refresh instead of back, and I just saw 33. I said, "What the fuck just happened?"
The Golden State did win, right? Or they're going to win.
Yeah, I'm literally clicking back now, and I'm trying to see what the score is. Yeah, there was no reason for him to come back, bro. What the?
He just wanted to. That's what we call stat padding, bro. It's stat padding,
bro. It's 1:18 to go. This man had no reason to come back. I'm dead.
He must have knocked down like 2 threes in the jumper.
He did. He knocked down 2 threes.
There you go. But to get back to LaMarcus Aldridge, it's just really sad to see these injuries affect a player's career like this. This is one of those injuries that could potentially be a life-threatening ordeal if it's not taken care of sooner rather than later. And I think with LaMarcus's case here, I think he made absolutely the right decision to call it quits. It's like we talked about just a couple minutes ago. He's been in the league for 15 years. He's had a tremendous career in the NBA. Granted, he didn't win any championships when he was with Portland or San Antonio, but in retrospect, does it really matter? And granted, I know he signed with Brooklyn to try to get maybe one more before the end of his career. Whether he gets one or not from Brooklyn, we'll see. Just because he was on the roster, I don't know if there's like a minimum number of games that you have to play to be.
You have to play. I want to say about over 20 or 30 games. You have to play more than a quarter of the season to like qualify for an earned ring.
It's just that I will probably think that Brooklyn's probably going to make him a ring.
Yeah, of course.
If they actually win the finals this year, which they have a very good chance of
winning. A lot of teams do that.
It's like I said though, LaMarcus has been probably one of the best power forwards that we've seen in this league for probably the last decade plus. And it's just really unfortunate to see his career cut short due to this irregular heartbeat situation that he has. Kevin, there's not really much that I could really add more than that. I just feel awful for the guy.
I mean, I as a Mavs fan, like I said, LaMarcus had a lot of amazing games against us. I mean, I'm just thinking of a couple of games. I know a few years back when the Blazers were kind of fully loaded with Brandon Roy, Wesley Matthews, LaMarcus Aldridge, Nicholas Batum, and that whole roster. Dallas did beat them in our championship run in 6 games, but there was a couple of games in that season, if I remember correctly, in which LaMarcus Aldridge hit game winners in both games to beat us. And I just think back to how unguardable he seemed to have been back then, how he kind of carried that mid-range to just behind the 3-point line, or excuse me, just in front of the 3-point line accuracy. I mean, anywhere from 10 to what seemed to be 20 feet, this man was just money. Pick and roll, pick and pop, finishing at the rim, free throw percentage. He did it all. Yeah, I believe he had 5 or 6 All Pros in his NBA career. I actually listened to a segment of Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman this morning while I was on a break, and Max Kellerman made a good point. And that point was that LaMarcus Aldridge played at the wrong time because in his career, the league changed to being guard dominant. Mm-hmm. And as he was cooking, so to speak, in his later years in Portland before he became the power forward for the Spurs, the league had just changed into, like we had just talked about, Steph and all these other shooters from outside, KD. It just became straight up just a jump shot, guard heavy, dominant ball handling league. Mm-hmm. And the pick and pop and the, mid-range jump shot kind of faded away from a lot of players, especially a lot of bigs. LaMarcus Aldridge could shoot the three, but he wasn't the greatest three-point shooter. Granted, a 6'11" power forward shooting over 30% is decent, but I mean, he wasn't as consistent as he was for mid-range. So if he would have been in any other era, he would have continued his dominance. Obviously, his highest scoring percentage, his highest scoring year was, I believe, 23.9 or 24.2 points per game in Portland. And he was just, like we talked about, just dominant and consistent. And that transition to San Antonio kind of changed over time, so to speak, especially later on with the acquisition of DeMar DeRozan and whatnot and athletic guards that San Antonio did end up going out and get later in the season or later in the years. But there really isn't much to say other than that, man. He was a great player to watch. He was a great competitor. It does suck to see his season end the way that it did, especially with Brooklyn trending in the direction that they are. But when it comes to health reasons, it's any sport. And it doesn't matter if it's basketball, it could be football, it could be baseball, it could be badminton. If there's something life-threatening, you got to hang it up. He played 15 years. He's got to have enough money saved up to provide for his family. He's got to have enough money situated to do what he's got to do as a man and, as a father. But he did the right thing, and he should walk away from this game with no regrets. I mean, unfortunately, it did shorten his career probably less than what he wanted to or faster than what he wanted to. But in my opinion, there was no decision. The second he found out what it was, he knew he had to hang it up, and he didn't resist. So good for him.
I will say this about LaMarcus. LaMarcus is one of those players that I love to talk about simply because he doesn't get the shine that I think he truly deserves. And trust me, I know there's a lot of attention that's paid to like the top, 5 guys in the league, like KD, LeBron, Kyrie Irving, James Harden. Like, granted, I know those players are phenomenal, but when you look at somebody like LaMarcus Aldridge, just the model of consistency that he had throughout his entire career, like, what more can you ask for from the guy? The guy's going out there and averaging somewhere in between 20 to 24 points a game throughout most of his career in Portland. Pretty much does the same thing when he goes to San Antonio, and is one of the more efficient power forwards as far as shooting goes that we've seen in NBA history. It's like, he's not flashy, but it works. And sometimes, like, those players that just get the job done, granted, it may not be in the flashiest way. It may not get like the most clicks on Twitter because he's not posterizing people every weekend like the Charlotte Hornets are. But he's just a phenomenal player. And he doesn't really seek a lot of attention. He seems like kind of like laid back guy, seems a very chill, very nice guy. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be weird not seeing LaMarcus Aldridge out in the court anymore, simply just because the guy was just a great player. And it's going to be tough to not see him out in the court anymore. And just to kind of piggyback off the point that you made that Max Kellerman was talking about, had he started his career in the late 90s and had his prime probably from like the mid 2000s into the late 2000s, he would have probably been one of the greatest power forward. He is one of the greatest power forwards that we've seen. He would have probably been arguably like top 2, top 3, because I'm talking about his shooting. Granted, I know Tim Duncan was great at what he did. Karl Malone was the same thing. I'm just saying, if you talk about,
you're missing somebody.
You talk about Dirk?
Okay.
I'm just
You're not going to come up in this podcast and talk about power forwards and then shooting power forwards and not mention the greatest.
I'm just
international power forward of all time.
I'm just saying, though, had he gotten his start in the late 90s and had his prime, he would have been right up there with Dirk, as far as I'm concerned.
It would have been Dirk, Duncan, LaMarcus, KG. It would have been all them boys, man. It would have been a great class. The four of them in the Western Conference, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Forget about it. It would have been crazy.
It's just that, he started a little bit later. But even with that, though, one of the best power forwards that we've seen, probably one of the top 3, top 4 of this generation. And I mean, I think it's without a doubt that he's one of the top 10 best power forwards that we've seen in this league. Maybe top 10, top 15. Top 10, top 15. We'd have to do a little bit more of a deep dive into that.
I'd probably say 15, 20. I mean, like I said, there are a lot of power forwards out there, like a fuck ton of power forwards. So 15, 20. But nevertheless, you know what I'm saying? I completely agree. Definitely one of the better ones of this generation. Consistency is key. Yeah, he obviously lasted in the league a long enough time. 15 years is fucking eternal, nowadays. But no, I mean, kudos to him. I wish he could have stayed. Just, if Brooklyn would have won, it would have been nice to see a vet like him go out on top and, kind of go and get it the way he wanted to. But like Chris Bosh, a medical ailment kind of ended the career a lot shorter than what he wanted to. But it is what it is. He made the right choice, and, happy retirement to him. But continuing this NBA trade, our final subject is going to be the incredible, ridiculous floater game-winning 3-point shot that my boy Luka Doncic kind of went out there and stole a game out there in Memphis, Tennessee from the Grizzlies. I know that I have a decent amount to say, but I'm a Mavericks fan, so I'll just transfer that to you, my boy. What the fuck do you think about this Luka magic? Because this kid's ridiculous.
Going out there and competing, bro. He's having a great year. He's basically has similar numbers to what he's doing last year, so he's just keeping everything consistent. And I will say this, though, just to kind of talk a little bit about last year, because we kind of saw this in the bubble last year. There is now a clutch factor in Luka's game that maybe in his rookie season, maybe like the early parts of his second year, that we necessarily didn't see much of. But now that he's got the full confidence to knock down these shots in these clutch moments, in these last second opportunities. And I mean, the one last night against Memphis, when the episode drops, it'll be, 2 days ago, but it's insane. I mean, the guy was guarded pretty well. I thought it was John Morant that was guarding him.
It was doubled.
Yeah. And he was able to kind of get underneath both defenders and just chuck it up and went right in. I mean, it was a great shot. When you look at Luka this year, though, he's pretty much has the same field goal percentage as he has last year, shooting basically the same points per game as he was last year. His free throw shooting percentage is basically the same. I mean, I don't know what else you want more from this guy. He's going out there and keeping Dallas competitive in a tough Western Conference. I know they're the 7th seed right now. See if they maybe try to move up a little bit to maybe try to crack that 6th spot, maybe the 5. Then maybe a tougher task to get up to the 5th seed. But I think if Luka keeps playing at the clip that he's playing at, I think he's got a very good shot to maybe get an MVP vote here. I don't know if he's going to get a lot, but the way that he's been playing the last couple months or so, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets some sort of a MVP nod from somebody here or there.
Yeah, no, I mean, as the fan that I am of the Dallas Mavericks, we literally just talked about it a few moments ago before we recorded. To go from my favorite player of all time, in Dirk Nowitzki, and go right into the Luka Doncic era, I couldn't be more blessed. I can't sit here and say anything at all. That's literally like the best thing that could have ever happened to the Mavs. I know that I will admittedly say that I did not want Luka draft night. I did not have any interest in him. I had no confidence. I didn't know enough about him. I said, just because you play on Real Madrid in Spain doesn't mean that it's going to transition into the league. I was like, he's like 18, 19. Kid's going to be arrogant coming into this league. I don't see enough of a consistent jump shot for him to come into the league. And from the gameplay and film that I had seen, I didn't really think his game would transition well because he played at a very slow pace and because he wasn't the greatest defender in the world. So I wanted Mo Bamba, and we all know how Mo Bamba's doing in the league right now. I think he had like a career high, like 17 points the other night, and he was drafted the same day Luka was. So it's kind of crazy that Luka's career high was damn near 50. And we're talking Mo Bamba was drafted like 2 picks after him, and he was like, we're talking about a career high, like 17 or 18 points. It's ridiculous. But to get back on track, the circus shot was ridiculous. He catches it on the inbounds. Valanciunas picks him up. He gets doubled. He goes underneath. And I mean, he stops on a dime. He makes sure his foot's behind the line. I don't know if you guys saw it. If you haven't, go check it out on YouTube. It's all over the internet everywhere. It's on Twitter. I mean, Luka Doncic game winner against the Memphis Grizzlies. And he legit throws a floater. Like, he pushes the ball out. He doesn't shoot it. He doesn't throw it because he's off balance. And it looks like he's falling forward. I mean, he legitimately, like, has his foot and the other foot's in the air, and he like throws it up at the basket with like just like a fucking push, like he's punching someone in the fucking nose, and it goes in. I mean, to people that say that's a circus shot, I mean, if you don't follow Mavs basketball as deeply as I do, which obviously if you're not a Mavs fan, you don't. He practices a lot of these random circus shots, similar to Steph Curry doing what he does in his routine, shooting in the tunnel, shooting at half court. Luka's always throwing up some crazy shots. Granted, it looks like it's for fun, but I mean, like, it's consistent that he throws up and does a lot of these funny, trick, odd, unorthodox shots. And in moments like that, I mean, an off-balance, one-handed floater behind the three-point line between two defenders, I mean, I want to say that the stuff that he practices or fucks around with, it helps him in these cases, man. Not every shot is going to be a wide open feeder set. You know, you get all your elbow out, and it's not always as easy as people think. In the NBA, man, sometimes you got to throw the ball up at the weirdest angles and hope they go in. But when you do the things and the routine that Luka has, it doesn't seem as unheard of.
No.
So, I mean, like you said, consistency is key. He has improved from the beginning of the year of him shooting like 9% from the three-point line to now 36.4% from the three-point line this year. He's doing what he needs to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to continue to repeat what you said. So I'm happy we got that win. Similar to what you said, his confidence has grown for him to be able to take those game-winning shots. He's hit a couple this year. I will counter, however, he did hit a couple rookie game winners. His rookie year, he did hit one against Houston over Clint Capella in the final seconds, and then that one shot to go to overtime in Portland in the corner where he caught it and threw it up. We ended up losing that game, but
I do remember that one. I do remember that one.
He's had clutch gene in him for some time, but yes, it has definitely developed into confidence now that he has the green light to pretty much do whatever the hell he wants. And I'm just hoping it continues, man. I really can't say much else.
Feel you on that. So with that said, we'll transition away from the NBA. We'll transition into the NFL for a little bit. So we were going over a mock draft before the episode. And so we're going to go over NFL.com's Charlie Casserly's mock draft. And
you know this guy.
There was one notable fact about this mock draft here. And so obviously at the top of the list, they had Trevor Lawrence going number one. That's not even an issue here. However, though, one thing that did stand out was Justin Fields, quarterback from Ohio State, was listed as the number 24 pick of this year's draft, and that would send him to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I will say this, Kev, just to kind of just throw it out there. Do you think that Justin's draft stock, do you think that this drop is legitimate, or do you think it's completely overblown?
I think this is ridiculous. I think a lot of this stuff is blown out of proportion. I think that these reports of him being uncoachable or him being overconfident or his work ethic not being what needs to be for the next level, again, we're not sports reporters. We don't have inside scoops. I mean, the closest inside scoop we have to Ohio State football is our boy Tyree. And I mean, Tyree can't say enough good things about this kid when he talks about Justin Fields. And we talk, every couple of weeks or so about football and other topics. But dude, when we talk about Justin Fields, he was the number 2 recruit in his class back in 2018 or 2017. I mean, he started at Georgia, transferred to Ohio State, had an incredible year at Ohio State in 2019, throwing 41 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. Last year, being limited with COVID, he had 22 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. You know, the interception total did go up, but, you know, limited practice, limited reps, limited exposure, whatever. We're talking about a guy that at the beginning of this college football season was projected to be the number 2 overall pick. And suddenly he's collapsed all the way down to the bottom half, if not the bottom quarter of the NFL draft, 24th to Pittsburgh. In what world does anyone see this talented kid falling 24 slots? Again, he's not going to go 1, probably not 2, with the emergence of Zach Wilson and all that hype in New York. Seems to be looking towards that direction of drafting Zach. Even though I think Justin is better than Zach, but it is what it is. You know, again, personal opinion. I think it's ridiculous to just sum it up. I think it's bullshit. I don't know if it's because people don't like him or because he comes off a little bit more confident than other kids at his position. I don't know. I don't know enough about him to go out and give a rant of how good of a kid he is and how good of a teammate he is. I don't watch Ohio State football as much as Tyree and a lot of other people do. I'm not big into college football other than Florida, you know what I mean? And like the SEC. So I damn sure wasn't paying attention to the Big Ten, other than the fact of, you know, they went to the national championship to get blown out by Bama. But I really don't know what people have against this kid to go from, like I said, 2 to 24. Again, this Charlie guy, I've never heard of him in the world. He's entitled to make his own mock draft, just like we can make our own mock draft on the internet. So, I mean, for him to have him 24 slots down and say that there are 23 other players that aren't Trevor Lawrence better than him, or 22 other players that aren't Trevor Lawrence to be better than him, I think that's a crock of shit, and I think that's a slap to the face. I mean, this kid has had 2 incredible pro days, and I know that we talked about pro days not being the most important thing in the world, nor being something that can change someone's draft stock drastically, but I mean, when you run what did he run? A 4.4, a 4.34, or his 40 was ridiculously quick.
Yeah, it was like a 4.4.
When you run a 4.4 and you can throw the ball downfield like he can, and you have the accuracy that he has, I mean, obviously, you know, his late game decision making and, you know, his being able to read the field with some questions going into the NFL. But what college kid is it? College systems and NFL systems are all different. Like, I mean, you obviously run majority of a spread shotgun system in college. So, I mean, it's not going to be a shock that he's got to learn how to read a defense. Everybody does. You know,
here's the thing. Because the way that I see it is Justin Fields is probably a top 2, top 3 quarterback in this draft. And top 3 he's not lower than top 3. He's not top 5 or anything lower than that. He is a top 3, arguably top 2 quarterback in this draft class. Now, I understand that there's a lot of hype around Zach Wilson going to the Jets, and basically the Jets have already kind of said that they're going to pick Zach Wilson with that second
without
pick.
Saying it, yeah.
Yeah, they're basically going to pick Zach Wilson at this point. I'd be really surprised if they decided to make a 180 and change their minds. But how much, Kev, I wanted to ask you this. How much do you want to bet that after the second pro day that he just had, that the reports that will come out, they will say, oh, Justin is now the betting favorite to go to the 49ers based off of that one picture, the one interaction between him and Kyle Shanahan discussing something between both of them? How much do you want to bet? Because
I can't bet. I can't. Because he had that same picture with Mac Jones at his pro day.
It's just like, but like, that's the thing is like, I think a lot of people make too much about these pro days. These pro days are just essentially simulated throwing sessions. Granted, I know that, you know, it's cool to see him scramble and throw the ball 60 yards. It's like when he's like fading away, throwing it downfield. I get that. But to me, when I see Justin Fields and what he did on the field for Ohio State, he was one of the most dependable quarterbacks that you could ask for in a college quarterback. He was one of the more efficient quarterbacks. He didn't turn the ball over that frequently. And his legs, his ability to run out of the pocket and extend plays with his feet and quickly, like Kev said, he ran a 4.4 in his 40-yard dash. This kid could run. I mean, those are almost like a wide receiver speed. So I find it very odd that his draft stock took a complete tumble to where Charlie is saying that this guy is almost outside of the top 25. I think is disrespectful. I think it's disgraceful too, because there is no way, and there's no way in hell that Justin Fields is going that low. Listen, I'm a Patriot fan. We had a discussion about this about a month ago, saying if Justin Fields were to get to 15, would New England take him? And I would personally love to see him on the Patriots since I'm a Patriot fan. I'd be shocked if he went that low. This guy has him at 24, going to Pittsburgh. Granted, I get the idea of him going to Pittsburgh because he would essentially be the next generation after Big Ben. He's not going that low, though. If he gets that low, that's a slap in the face. And as far as I'm concerned, he could use that as momentum or like fire to get back at the league for all the teams that passed him.
So here's why I think this guy is full of shit, because I'm literally looking at the order for the draft. You have Jacksonville going with Trevor Lawrence, obviously. New York is looking to go with Zach Wilson. San Fran, we don't know if it's going to end up being Mac Jones or what. There's a lot of hype behind Mac Jones and Kyle Shanahan. So I'm just going to skip over those, and I'm going to skip over teams that have a quarterback already, right? So the next team is the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, we know Matt Ryan is getting up there in age. We know Matt Ryan is performing at a good level, but, Atlanta could use a backup quarterback for the future. God forbid, Matt were to go down with an injury or if he were to take a dive. I'm skipping over Cincinnati. I'm skipping over Miami. I'm skipping over Detroit because they just got Goff. Goff is under 30. It would shock me that they need a lot of other things more than a quarterback right now. I'm skipping over Carolina because they have Teddy Bridgewater right this second, and they just traded for Sam Darnold. I'm skipping over Denver because Denver has Drew Lock. I'm skipping over Dallas because Dallas just signed Dak. I'm skipping over New York and Philadelphia. New York has Danny Dimes. Philly's got
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts and they need a lot of other shit more than a quarterback right now. And they're not trying to repeat what the hell they did last year with drafting somebody and creating quarterback controversy before the season even starts. Chargers obviously have Herbert. And then you have the Minnesota Vikings. I could see him maybe going there. Kirk Cousins is in the final year of his deal. I don't know if he's going to get another extension. And then obviously, like Kyle said, the Patriots. There are a lot of teams in the beginning, like between the first 10, 15 picks that don't need quarterbacks. So if he does fall outside of the top 4, the closest team I can see maybe stretching to get Justin Fields would be Philly because they're stupid, or it would be Minnesota because they need somebody behind Kirk Cousins. If not, New England is primed to get a quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years, God willing, because there's a lot of these teams have quarterbacks under the age of 26. There's no reason for them to go out and draft a Justin Fields. So reasonably, can he fall to you? Absolutely. But will he? I hope not.
This guy had him going to 24.
Dude, 24 is stupid because right after New England, well, actually, hold on. It might make a little bit of sense. I don't think we looked at this in depth enough because right after you, Arizona's got Kyler. Las Vegas has Derek, who was on the trading block and then taken off. Then it's Miami again. Washington can use him. Chicago can use him. We don't need him. Tennessee doesn't need him. The Jets are back again. They're not going to draft a quarterback again. And then the Steelers. So realistically, in the first 24 picks, the only teams that need a quarterback are maybe 5. Maybe 5.
I would imagine that one of those 5s are going to take Justin Fields if he's a
130%. Listen, Detroit is one of the dumbest franchises in all of the NFL. Guys, if you're a Lions fan, I'm not saying that to insult you. You have been absolutely irrelevant and wasted the entire career of Megatron, who got inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. Don't know how. And Matthew Stafford walked out of there happy as a pig and shit, and you got Jared Goff in return. So could they do that? Possibly at 7. Carolina, I don't think so. Dallas obviously can't afford it. And Denver, maybe. Drew Lock was hot. Drew Lock was cold. And John Elway is the VP, so I don't see why he wouldn't draft another quarterback. I just don't think it's smart. Denver needs a lot of help on that offensive line. So, again, these are just my predictions. But it does, now that I look at it, make sense in depth why he thinks he could go to 24. I genuinely, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's even possible, bro. There's no way 4 or 5 of these teams pass up on him. The's no way. Especially New England. If he hits 15, there's no way New England doesn't pull the trigger. There's no way.
It would almost be like Lamar Jackson when he fell almost out of the first round.
I disagree. I'm going to cut you off right there. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Lamar was in question because of his accuracy and a lot of other things. This man, Justin Fields, doesn't have those issues, and he's not as mobile as Lamar. People wanted to transfer Lamar's position because of his speed. Dude, Justin Fields is a quarterback through and through. And again, I'm not saying Lamar Jackson isn't. I had previous opinions of him prior to draft night, but obviously him winning the MVP and a lot of other things prior to that showed me that he could be a good quarterback in this league. Justin Fields isn't in that same stigma. There's no way. Like I cannot allow that comparison to be made. Lamar fell for the right reasons of concerns, and Baltimore took the gamble. High risk, low reward. High risk, high reward. They got the reward, and Lamar is still healthy, knock on wood, and he's still playing efficiently. Justin Fields is a good, effective system quarterback with a good arm, and he's got legs underneath him. I would probably say not skill-wise, but overall build-up, I would say he's more of like an Andrew Luck kind of makeup to a certain extent because he has the accuracy, he can move, he can throw the ball down the field. I don't know about durability because Andrew Luck took a lot of licks in the NFL, and he unfortunately, oh my God, it hurts. He retired so early, but he does have a lot of those mature factors of being able to sit up in the pocket and make a throw. Now, granted, accuracy when he's pressured, like any other quarterback, was a lot of things was questionable, as well as his late game decision making. But he's a rookie. You know what I'm saying? The Big Ten isn't exactly challenging outside of Michigan at the end of the year and Indiana this year. So I mean, it's going to come with time.
I think it'd be nuts if he fell to 24, though. I think it would.
Would be stupid. There's no way, bro. Chicago needs a quarterback. If he makes it to 20, which I don't think he will, if Chicago doesn't draft Justin Fields, I think Chicago needs to be wiped out from the NFL. They need to be what's that episode from SpongeBob? The Salty Spittoon and that needs to be Weenie Hut Jr. over there, bro. Yeah. Because there's no way Chicago's going to pass up on him. There's no shot.
And the thing is, though, there are going to be teams that might even trade up to go get Justin. Like, you kind of have to keep that in mind here. I'm just saying, New England could try to package the deal together where they try to move up a couple spots. You mentioned that there are a lot of teams in that top 10 that don't need a quarterback. Granted, they may use those picks to address other needs on the team, but I could see somebody definitely try to make a move to go get Justin in the top 10 and then the most top 15. If he drops anything below the top 15, I think it would be insulting to Justin.
I do too. Big time, bro. And again, I have to continue to back myself up here, even though this is probably going to get a total of 6 views because you guys hate our NFL videos for whatever reason. If Justin were to go to any of these other teams, he would be behind great quarterbacks. Again, a lot of the teams that I mentioned have very young quarterbacks, so I don't think it would be possible. But I will reiterate, if he does go to an Atlanta, great veteran to learn behind in Matt Ryan. Mm-hmm. If he were to go to Detroit, he has at least Jared Goff. He has a lot of experience. He has postseason experience. If he were to go to New York, the the Giants, that would maybe give Zach Wilson, I meant the Giants. Sorry. He would give Danny Dimes maybe a little incentive, like put a little flair under his butt to kind of step up. I don't think that's going to happen though. And in Philly, man, what the fuck is Howie going to do? We all know Howie makes questionable draft choices. So could he end up doing that and making Jalen's life a living hell? I don't know. It's possible. But again, that trade for you guys, at least to me as an overall football fan, I think that makes the most sense. I think him in your system in the next couple of years with the people that you just signed would be ridiculous.
I say if Patriots had get him at 15, I'd be so happy.
Oh, no. I'm going to transition. I'm going to counter it now. Do you think that fucks up Cam's confidence?
if anything, he should look at it as like an incentive to like, okay, they want to do this. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go out and ball out like Aaron Rodgers did when they did what they did to him last season. When they drafted they drafted Jordan Love, right?
Yeah, to Utah.
Could look at it like that. That's how
Cam plays with a chip on his shoulder every second of every day. And again, I've said it on this podcast a multitude of times.
That chip would turn into a boulder.
Cam, you got to make your IG posts more literate. Whatever font you're using right now makes it difficult to understand. So, I mean, if it's code for other people to read, cool beans. I mean, if I'm liking something of yours, it's because I think you're doing something cool in the video or the picture, not because I'm reading what the fuck you posted. But to what your point is, I definitely agree with you. If Justin is drafted to New England, I think that makes the fire under Cam's already burning situation bigger because Cam's out to prove a lot. I mean, he did sign a $14 million deal, majority of it incentive based for the season. But if at any point he struggles, I don't think Bill Belichick will hesitate to put in that kid.
He has to be available for them to pick. Either that or they try to move up in the draft to go get him. And
yeah,
who knows at this point? I mean, the draft's not for another 2 weeks, so time will tell by then. So, but if he drops to 24, that's insulting as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, if that's the case, this man Charlie deserves to hit on all Vegas slot machines because for him to take a guess at 24, because obviously this is Ben's more than likely's last season. If by some godly decision or godly struck luck, he guessed right, bro, all slot machines need to hit. Bro, if he goes down and pulls like 4 of them, he needs to hit jackpot on all 4. That's such a random number.
I know. I understand it because of Pittsburgh's situation with Big Ben. He's not going to go that low.
But for his talent to fall that low,
he's not going that low. He's not going that low.
But anyway, let's get into the main meat and potatoes of today's episode. We have the wide receiver or former wide receiver of the New England Patriots, Julian Edelman, retired from the sport of football this past week. I believe he had an ailing knee injury this past season that forced him to retire prematurely, and he decided to hang it up this week. So, I mean, before we get into the what if segment the make your case segment, I know that you had spoken about it earlier this week, but if you could just give me Julian Edelman wrapped up in one sentence, how would you describe him?
Gritty.
That's a word, but yeah.
One word, gritty. That's what I would use. Simply just because that's what he had to be to make his NFL career a successful one. The guy was a 7th round draft pick coming out of Kent State as a quarterback. And when he first came to New England, they primarily used him as a special teams player. And even at some points in his early stages of his career, they had him on defensive packages. There were plays where he would rush from like the slot corner position. I remember one in particular where he blitzed going after, I believe it was Vince Young, didn't get the sack, but ended up laying a pretty good lick on Vince Young in that Patriots versus Eagles game, I believe in 2010. And I mentioned in the YouTube video that I did a couple days ago about this, in the 2011 AFC Championship game, he was playing corner in the last drive of the game to figure out who's going to go to the Super Bowl to play the Giants in Super Bowl 46. That's how weak New England secondary was at that time. When you got Julian Edelman, who was a wide receiver and a special teams player at that point in his career, playing corner in the biggest drive, the biggest defensive drive of the entire season. And then slowly as the years keep going on, he becomes a full-time wide receiver by 2012, 2013. And that's where you really see his career as a receiver start taking leaps and bounds. And he was one of the most reliable, one of the most dependable targets that Tom Brady had when he was there. And it really does go to show when Belichick and Tom Brady sing their praises about how tough this guy was. Belichick called him a privilege to coach. You know, granted, Bill Belichick is one of the more indifferent people that you'll probably come across. He's not very emotional.
Yeah.
But he was glowing over Julian Edelman's career when he put out his statement after Edelman retired from the game this past week. And the same thing with Brady. And the one thing that I'll finish on before I'll let you take the case here. This guy was money in the playoffs.
Facts.
Every time he was there, he balled out every year and did everything he could to get New England back to the Super Bowl. And he was the major wideout that made it happen outside of maybe like Gronkowski. I'm just mentioning that because Gronkowski was a tight end and Edelman was a receiver. But a great Patriot. Now the question is, does he deserve Hall of Fame recognition? And I'll let you take that from here.
So obviously, me being the Colt fan that I am, playing against Julian Edelman in terms of like, you know, when the Colts played against him, or, you know, whenever I saw a primetime game and you guys were on there, I saw the confidence, the lack of fear, the intensity in his face. Pat McAfee was actually talking about it a couple of days ago. I was watching his show, and obviously Pat was our punter for quite some time, and Julian Edelman, like you said, was running back kickoffs. And when they were warming up, obviously Pat's kicking to his returner, and your kicker is kicking to Julian this way. So it's Pat and Julian side by side. Mm-hmm. And, you know, pregame warm-ups, stretching, you know, do whatever they're doing, their routine. Pat was talking about how he always engaged with the returner that he was going to kick to. You know the personality that Pat McAfee has. You shooting the shit, bullshit. Yo, what's going on, bro? You know what I'm saying? It's just that open, personable situation. And Pat was talking about a particular situation in which they were, or should I say, he was trying to have a conversation with Julian, and Julian kept it so brief and so one-worded that Pat was like, "Oh, like, I guess I can't fuck with this guy, like, whatever." And Pat kind of said, long story short, like, "Hey, listen, you know, I kind of have a reputation for, like, you know, if you do make it to me, I'm gonna lay you out." You know what I'm saying? Like, Pat, obviously, at that point in his career, had already made great tackles on return men. And, you know, Pat was one of those punters that actually went out there and did what he needed to do. And Julian, basically, his rebuttal to that was like, "I'll keep that in mind." And Julian, I guess, and one of the punts in that game had an opportunity to truck Pat when Pat asked him prior, saying, you know, like, "Try to juke me, don't run me over, don't make me look bad." And I guess Julian made a move and tried to make Pat miss and ran out of bounds instead, or something of the sort, to the point where he didn't run into Pat. And Pat ended up jokingly saying, "Thank you, I appreciate that." And Julian didn't respond. Julian and Pat met somewhere at a bar or somewhere at an event later in life after after Pat retired, and they were just somewhere. They talked about the situation, and Julian said to him, "I should have ran your ass over that day." And their friendship kind of formulated from there. But it just goes to show, when they're in between those lines, Julian Edelman gave no fucks who you were. He was going out there and he was going to make a play somehow. So to that, I give him so much credit, because he played through injury. He was aggressive, and he was undersized, and he was in a lot of cases undermanned. I mean, he wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the greatest receiver, but he made plays happen for you guys. And he was like, it was funny. It's like we talked about earlier in the segment, or should I say earlier in the episode, about someone preceding somebody else, like the transition of somebody coming into another position. Like I talked about with Luka and Dirk. You had Wes Welker, one of the greatest slot receivers in NFL history, and then you went right into Julian Edelman. I mean, granted, Wes Welker was significantly better in my opinion, but you had a great player to follow up, and it took Julian some time, like you said, to kind of get into that starting role, that consistent, you know, Tom Brady target on third down, that reliable player. But when he got there, man, it was efficient. And Julian Edelman was a great player. However, here's where the debate starts. Other than his postseason accolades and him being a 3-time Super Bowl champion, I personally do not believe he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. There are plenty of receivers out there literally waiting to be put into the Hall of Fame that have significantly better statistics than him. And other than the 3 hardware championships, which do carry weight, but when you look at a receiver's career, the stats do mean a lot. So I don't think he is. And the stats show that. And I'm just going to reflect that really quick. I'm just going to talk about it. In Julian Edelman's 11-year career, he totaled 6,822 total yards and receiving. He totaled 620 receptions and 36 touchdowns. His postseason statistics, which is I know what you're going to bring up, so I'll get there before you do. He had 1,442 yards. He had 118 receptions, and he had 5 touchdowns. He has a Super Bowl MVP, had one of the greatest postseason, if not one of the greatest Super Bowl wide receiver performances I've ever seen against the Rams. But as you reiterated in your segment earlier this week, that was a snooze fest of a fucking Super Bowl. But he did his thing. And like I said, postseason wise, he's one of the greatest receivers we've ever seen. For whatever reason, he turns it the fuck up in the postseason. But to further that, his catch percentage in the postseason was only 65.6%. Had some drops, some bad passes maybe. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I remember every single drop he ever had, but 65.6% is not the greatest percentage either. And, you know, like I have a counterpoint to whatever point you're going to make, but the floor is yours. I've made my case as to why I don't think he's Hall of Fame.
Because he played in games that actually mattered. Throughout his entire run with New England, granted it was a decade plus, in the time that he became a full-time wide receiver, he was the go-to target as far as the wideouts go on that team. And I know you mentioned Wes Welker. Wes Welker even has better stats than Julian Edelman here. But the one play that Wes needed to make in that Super Bowl against the Giants, couldn't make it.
Dropped. I remember that.
Now you could say that Brady could have thrown a better ball, but the reason why he threw him to his outside shoulder instead of his inside shoulder is because you had a safety coming across, and if Brady threw him inside, Welker would have gotten lit up.
I will never forget that play. That was one of the biggest what ifs that we maybe could have talked about.
Yeah,
man, that throw, Brady made the adjustment that he had to, but I know what you're talking about.
It needed to be a back shoulder, because if he threw him in front of his shoulder, Wes Welker would have gotten laid out. Yeah, so Welker could have caught that ball. Julian, on the other hand, made those catches.
He did.
Granted, when you look at the Chiefs game against in the AFC Championship a couple of years ago, granted he had the one drop where it went through his hands and it led to an interception by Hunter Sorensen. Comes back and is able to convert some big third down plays in pretty solid coverage to keep drives alive that end up New England winning the game and then going on to the Super Bowl. In the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl 51, makes one of the craziest catches in NFL history by catching it off of a ricochet from Robert Alford. There's 3 players diving for it, including Edelman. Edelman gets his hands underneath the ball, keeps the ball off the ground, about an inch off the ground, keeps the play alive, and maintains the catch and brings it in. You go back to the Super Bowl against Seattle. He had the game-winning touchdown. I know a lot of people think that, you know, Malcolm Butler had the game-winning interception, and that's true. But technically, Edelman had the game-winning touchdown in that Super Bowl 49 matchup between the Patriots and the Seahawks. He's had phenomenal AFC Championship performances. I remember against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he had a great performance against the Steelers. I believe it was the 2016 AFC Championship game. He had a great performance there. And mind you, I know his regular season stats don't necessarily show that, but we can even look to somebody like Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson is a Hall of Fame receiver. We both acknowledge that. But Calvin Johnson only has like 750 receptions. mean, Edelman has maybe 130 less of them. However, the significance of his plays throughout his entire career dwarf anything that Calvin Johnson did throughout his career. Numbers are cool, but the numbers have to have context here. Calvin Johnson, in particular, played for a subpar organization, and that's not his fault. But he left the game with years left on his body. Julian Edelman played until he physically couldn't play anymore. And when I look at somebody like Julian Edelman, granted, I know there are a lot of other great receivers that are in the Hall of Fame. I know Hines Ward is one of them. Hines Ward should eventually get into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I got a list. Don't worry about it. I'm ready for you.
I know. But when I look at Edelman's career and the significance of what he did in his career, I think it's worthy of at least a discussion for the Hall of Fame. Whether he gets in or not, time will tell. I think it's definitely worthy to have a conversation. I think to just completely shut the door on Edelman being a Hall of Famer, I think that's a little bit disrespectful, because I think Julian had a very solid career, a great career. And when you kind of put the numbers into the context that I just laid out, I definitely think that it's worthy of possibly making the Hall of Fame. I'll let you take the floor.
So I'm just going to quickly just run down something really fast. So Julian Edelman really didn't get into his starting role, like you said,
2013,
until about 2012, 2013. And I would probably lean towards more 2013 because he only started 3 games in 2012. And in 2012, he only had 235 yards receiving. So 2013, which what I would consider to be his first full season, he had 105 catches. He had 1,056 yards, 1,056 total receiving yards, and he had 6 touchdowns. Unfortunately, that was one of 3 seasons he only eclipsed that mark, and he only had 2 seasons where he had over 100 catches. Statistics are a big thing in the Hall of Fame. I understand the significance of the plays that he made when they mattered the most, but you have to look at the integrity of an entire career. And just because you make big catches on the biggest stage doesn't mean that your career was incredible, because if you want to talk about that, Mario Manningham made one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history, but had an absolute dog shit of a career. David Tyree, one of the greatest Super Bowl catches in NFL history, dog shit of a career. So yes, big plays are important, clutch plays are important, but so does the rest of your career. And there are a numerous amount of wide receivers that should be in this Hall of Fame that unfortunately are not. And just for reference, so if we're going to count 2013 to 2020, and last year didn't even count because technically he only started 1 game because of injury. So Julian Edelman's actual career spanned only a total of 6 years that he actually played healthily, and a lot of years he didn't even play a full season. 2013, he played 16. 2014, he played 14. 15, he played 9. His full season, his only full season, or should I say one of his 2 or 3 full seasons, was 2016. He started 13. He played 16. The next season, he played 12. The next season, he did play 16. And last season, he played 6. Anyway, to talk about somebody that's actually in the league currently right now that has better statistics, that has been in the league less, it's going to sound funny. It's going to sound biased, but it's just for the example. T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton has over 3,000 more yards than him, has over 24 touchdowns more than him, and is 22 catches shy of Julian Edelman's total. Does he have Super Bowl rings? Nope. Does he have clutch postseason catches? Maybe a few. But his stats blow Julian's out of the water, and he's younger, and he's been injury-ridden too. So I'm just saying, that's just someone that's in a predicament right now that if he were to hang it up right now, he has better stats, but he wouldn't get to the Hall of Fame because he has no postseason hardware to hang up for it. I'm just going to go over receivers that aren't in the Hall of Fame, and you named one of them. But I'm going to start with Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco. probably the best footwork I've ever seen at the wide receiver position in my entire life. Chad Johnson had over 11,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Chad Johnson had over 700 catches. And Chad Johnson also had over, what am I looking at here? Hold on, I can't read. Chad Johnson had 67 touchdowns. Chad Johnson's mouth got him into a lot of trouble. Chad's last year in the league, unfortunately, ended in New England, where he didn't play a lot, if any at all. And then he actually got cut by the Dolphins before the season started with Hard Knocks in like 2014 or 15. So his career legitimately ended at 10 years. And Chad played for the majority of his career every single year. His rookie season, he only started 3 games. So, I mean, technically he only played 9 full seasons, 8 if you don't count New England. And he blows Julian out of the water in number-wise. Hines Ward.
I'm dispute that.
Hines Ward, you already know his. He's got a Super Bowl behind him. Right here, I'm bitter about it. Chad Johnson shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame over him. Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne got a Super Bowl, and Reggie Wayne got better stats. I don't want to fucking hear that. There is no debate. Over 14,000 total yards, over 1,000 receptions, 82 total fucking touchdowns. He may not have the records that Megatron had, but I don't want to fucking hear it. Reggie Wayne's career, Megatron's career, there's no debate. Reggie Wayne is a fucking better overall career. Y'all can slide into my DMs and debate me about that bullshit because I was pissed about that. But anyway, you got Reggie Wayne sitting there that was a snub, and you got Torrey Holt sitting as a snub. 13,000 yards, over 900 catches, 85 total touchdowns, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. And he's got a Super Bowl. If you're going to tell me these players aren't in the Hall of Fame, and you're debating fucking Julian Edelman because he had a couple of clutch moments and 3 Super Bowls that Tom Brady willed him through, I don't want to hear it. These legends of the game aren't in the Hall of Fame. Bro, to me, if the door were to slam in that motherfucker's face and say, bro, you're not even welcome to the doormat, you can't even be mad. Bro, these guys are fucking iconic at the wide receiver position from the early 2000s and some of them in the early 90s that aren't in the Hall of Fame. And you debating Julian Edelman at 6,000 yards, bro. Again, I'm not denying the significance that he had on the field when he was there, but the integrity of his career, the build-up, the resume, if you gave me a piece of paper and said, job versus these guys' job, I'm giving it to them. Hands down. Again, 2 of them were biased because they're Colts. One of them I just gave a reference because of the numbers. The other one should be in the Hall of Fame. And you know that just as well as I do. Mm-hmm. And that's my debate to it. That's my end all right there.
I feel I don't dispute that those guys shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Those guys should be.
Oh shit.
I get it. I do. I think what Julian did though, and it's like I said, the significance of his plays in the playoffs when it counts the most, it means something. And when you look at somebody's totality of their career, what are you going to base it off of? Like, how much are you, like, if you're talking about, like, let's say, like, for example, like, if you're grading an essay, okay, how are you going to weight it? When I look at the weight of an entire season, the playoffs is where it's at. When you get to not just the wild card round, the divisional round, when you get into the championship games and the Super Bowls, did you step up and play your best football at the biggest moment, at the biggest stage of the game? Julian did. Granted, he does not have the stats of somebody like Reggie Wayne, Hines Ward, Torrey Holt. Those guys, to me, are Hall of Famers. However, when you look at Julian did his damage when it mattered the most. And I'll say this. Granted, he is not an outside receiver. He's not what you consider, I think it's an X receiver. He's not like Randy Moss where he's burning down the field just because his athleticism is just on another level. But when you look at where Julian started and the career that he's had and the versatility that he brought to New England, mind you, this guy played every side of the ball. Defense, special teams. Most of his career was on the offensive side of the ball. He made it work no matter where they put him. Mind you, when he was on special teams, I believe he had 4 or 5 punt returns for a touchdown. I think he set a Patriot record with that. So when you look at the versatility of Julian Edelman, that's one thing that he has over all of those guys that you just mentioned. Because
he has 1 punt return touchdown.
No, he doesn't. He has more than that.
In 2012 to 2018 regular season punt returns, he has 1 total touchdown, no kick return touchdowns. In the postseason, he has none. Oh wait, that's T.Y. Hilton. Sorry, my apologies, Cast. My apologies, Cast. He has 4.
Yeah, because I remember one of them was against Pat McAfee, and then another one where he got it. Because I remember I just watched the highlight the other day, and then the other one, the one that he got the Patriot record on, was against the Broncos. So he had 4.
Yeah.
That's the one.
My apologies.
No, you're good. You're good. But that's something that he has over those other guys. Now, I understand that, Calvin Johnson, they'd put in on like the last play of the game, if somebody was throwing a Hail Mary, he'd try to intercept it. And I know he has those plays. I didn't see Calvin going out there playing defense when they needed somebody to step up. Julian did.
They needed Jesus the entire integrity of his career. So him playing defense wouldn't have done shit.
So I'm just saying, I mentioned it earlier. Do I think that we should just shut the door on Julian being out of the Hall of Fame? No. And mind you, he just retired. He's going to be eligible in 5 years for the Hall of Fame. So there will be plenty of more time to see, whether his case improves or it degrades. I'm just saying, don't shut the door entirely just based off of the fact that he only had 630 catches, 6,800 yards, and 35 touchdowns. Look at the significance of those numbers, though. You have to add context to those numbers, and they are extremely vital to New England's success the last half decade.
The door's closed for me, but, I respect your opinion. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I told you, I respect everything he's done and all of his plays.
And, like, I'm not being biased here. I've watched the guy play.
No, like, I know.
So, granted, I'm not disputing, like, the guys that you brought up before. Those guys are Hall of Fame players. It's just the way.
Bro, Torrey Holt's been eligible for fucking almost 10 years, and he's not in the league. Are you kidding me? Hines Ward retired in 2007. It's been over 10 years.
It's just, I think that there are more ways to get into the Hall of Fame than just one route, just through numbers. Granted, I understand you have to include significance with the numbers. And that's the part that I'm focusing on here. I think with a lot of people that are just dismissing Edelman, they just look at the numbers and say, oh, well, right there, you can't even keep him in. You can't put him into the Hall of Fame with those numbers. Look at the significance, though, of those numbers. That's what I'm saying.
I know.
So without Julian Edelman, there's no way that New England would have won those 3 Super Bowls from 2014 to 2019. It wouldn't have happened. Edelman was instrumental on the offensive side of the ball to get those Super Bowls back to New England. And
2014, he had 281 in yards, and he had a touchdown. 2015, he had 153. 2016, he had 342. 2018, he had 388. So, he makes a big difference in the postseason for y'all, for sure.
I'm just saying, you can't just throw those out. Like, I'm just saying that it's like, I remember Colin Cowherd mentioned this the other day, because he was talking about Julian Edelman, whether or not he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He mentioned Mariano Rivera. Mariano Rivera was the closer for the Yankees for 2 decades. Granted,
enter the Sandman.
Granted, he only has 82 wins as a pitcher. Granted, I understand he's a closer. It was the moments where he came in that mattered. And when they needed to end the game, they brought in Mariano Rivera to close it out. Julian, in this instance, I'm not saying it's like Mariano Rivera, but when they needed somebody to step up on the offensive side of the ball outside of Brady, they needed a wideout to step up, Julian was the guy. And when you include that and his versatility, The fact that he gave granted, I know these guys give everything that they have to the game of football. I get that. But the fact that he did everything, played every side of the ball, special teams, defense, and offense. Which wide receiver do you know is willing to play defense? Like, actually will go out and play corner. Julian did
played
that.
some safety.
I'm just saying, you don't see that a lot from wideouts. I'm not seeing Stephon Diggs going out there playing corner. I'm not seeing Julio Jones go out and play corner, like when they actually need it. So,
hey, hold, like
I'm
I
just
gotta
saying
poke a hole in that though. Hold on, I gotta poke a hole in that though. When Julian was playing those positions, Julian was not necessarily fighting for a roster spot. But at the time, he had to be utilized in whatever it is. And at that time, he was strictly known for special teams. He developed into a wide receiver later in his career. Yes, they used him in certain packages, but you can't sit here and tell me if Julian is playing and starting at the 2 or the 1, that they're going to use him in defensive packages as well. They used him because they had a lack of depth at the corner and because he didn't really play that much on the offensive side. So they said, yo, he's quick, he's young, yo, go try to cover that guy or go blitz here because you're fast. We have this, you got to stop hyping it up. Like they specifically said, only you can cover him. Only you can play man on him. They used him in available packages.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that he didn't have to, but he did.
No, well, I mean, hold on, wait a minute. If Belichick says go the fuck out there, you gotta go the fuck out there. There's no debating that. Because then you lose your roster spot.
I'm just saying though, is that he was willing to go out there and give it a shot.
There's no, again, I stand by what I just said. There's no option, bro. If you're not playing and your coach tells you to go out there and fucking go be the ball boy, you go be the ball boy because you know you need to fucking earn your stripes or you know you need to do what you need to do to play. The second somebody badmouths Bill or says no, you know your career is fucked. I'm not a Patriot fan, but the reason Chad Johnson didn't do well in New England was because of his mouth and his attitude.
That's not true.
He was one of the.
That's not true. That's not true.
How?
That's not true. To be honest with you, I don't think he could run their routes. I think those routes.
But he was magically cooking 2 years later in Miami. It had nothing to do with that. It was the fact that his persona didn't fit the New England way.
That's not true. That's not true. I think it was because look at New England receivers. Who are the ones that could actually run precise routes? I don't think Chad Johnson, the way that he ran his routes in Cincinnati was nowhere the same as what he did in New England. I think
it's a different system. He was traded mid-season.
I get that. But what I'm saying is that goes against the antithesis of what he did his entire career. I'm saying, like, when it comes to his route selection, they may have given him more freedom to run certain routes in Cincinnati. Granted, you're throwing at Chad Johnson in the prime of his career. He's going to burn past everybody. But when it comes to New England, they're very precise routes. That's why you see a lot of these New England receivers struggle because you have to run those routes precisely as what Brady wanted them to be. And Chad Johnson, I think when he got to New England, that was such a blow to his confidence that they wanted him to run these routes a certain way and that maybe he wasn't like that. I wouldn't say he wasn't focused. I'm not saying that he couldn't do it. It's just that I don't think that was like his style, like where you need to run a 7-yard in and you have to break on the 7th yard. You can't float. I think that style of what New England was running their offense around, specifically with their receivers, is what led to issues and to why he didn't succeed as well as maybe some would have thought when he went to New England. That's what I'm saying.
Well, a difference of opinion. We're not going to get into a Chad Johnson debate. This is about the Julian Edelman segment. Yeah. So again, what I'm saying? I respect Julian Edelman's career, the person that he was, the player that he was, and I just genuinely, if these guys ain't in the Hall of Fame, and a lot of these players actually have hardware to back it up, minus Chad Johnson. Granted, they didn't have Tom Brady at the quarterback position like Edelman did. Reggie had Andrew and he had Peyton, so there's not really much of an argument there. But in terms of Julian ain't gonna get in for a while. If he does, it can't be before any of these guys. The fact that Reggie was snubbed already this year was, I think, ridiculous, and the fact that Torrey Holt isn't in it already is ridiculous to me as well. So Julian's got some time before, like you said, he's even eligible. But Gronk did come out and make a statement yesterday and said that there might be a 69% chance that he comes down to Tampa. He goes, I don't even think he goes, I don't think that I would close the door 100% on Julian not coming down.
He's done. He's not coming back. He's not.
Hey man, Tom make a phone call. Bruce Arians make a phone call. Gronkowski make a phone call. Who knows? Who knows?
I think that knee injury. I think that's going to be too big of an issue because he failed his physical. That was. I think that was one of the things that kind of like said, all right, maybe it's time to reassess some things and maybe think of retirement.
Hey man, we both talked about it. We both talked about it. There's been a multitude of situations where a lot of vets don't want to play until the actual season. Season doesn't start till September. Maybe with more rehab, maybe with more time, maybe with more conversation with Tom. Who knows? I'm just saying, I wouldn't shut the door, similar to what you said, on a possibility of him coming back if Tom Brady were to call him. Antonio Brown's not coming back from what it looks like. Otherwise, he would have been signed already, in my opinion. So who's to say Julian doesn't come and fill that void?
I'm hedging my bets that it's probably not going to happen.
I wouldn't be surprised if he stays retired. I'm just saying, I'm not going to say 100% if I had to bet my life on it, he stays retired. I couldn't do that.
If he does, he probably get a fourth ring.
I was about to say, that boy Kyle said that boy Julian going to have another one.
It depends, though. It depends on his knee. Because, like, he tried to fight through it last year, and it just wasn't going to happen. It was a major issue for him last year, and I think it got to the point this year where it was just going to be
too unbearable.
I don't know if unbearable is the right word. The way that I heard that this injury is like, I don't want to say it's like debilitating. I think it's one that if you really kind of keep pushing at it, there's a word I'm trying to think of here.
What is it? What's the injury?
I think it's like some sort of like, oh my God. It's like I had to look this up just because I know it's a knee issue, and I'm assuming it's like some sort of, there's like a degradation of something. It might be, I don't know if it's a ligament issue or if it's an actual like bone issue. It's just, I got the report right here. So I'll just read it.
It says undisclosed.
It's, so this is what Rappaport said. He said it began last year, tried to play through a pretty serious knee injury and tried to come back from it late in the season after having surgery, but he just wasn't able to do it. Tried to practice on it, had a setback, and pretty much it became clear that this knee injury was troublesome and potentially career ending. So I don't know if he would be able to come back from something like this. If I had to guess, this has to be something with the ligaments.
It says chronic knee ailment.
Yeah, that was the like. I remember there was a Lightning player. This is throwing it to hockey. He had a degenerative back injury, like where I think it had to do with the discs in his spinal cord, some sort of degenerative like spinal issue, and that ended his career. I might be screwing up the specific injury that he had, but it was Ryan Callahan. I think in Julian's case, this is with his knee, some sort of degenerative knee injury. So more than likely, this is probably going to end up being an arthritis for him. That's what it's probably going to turn into. He'll probably get arthritis in his knee a lot sooner than he would probably like. But
yeah, I mean, I feel that.
If he comes back from this, it's probably only going to be for a year. I highly doubt it, though. From the way that what I've seen about this. Granted, we don't know the specific injury that he has. I don't think that he's going to be able to come back from this. If he were, I think he'd probably play only a game or two before I think that knee becomes a problem.
I mean, other than that, I got nothing for it. That was a very great segment. So, I mean, I just, I'm really trying to think about a fancy word, but I tend to go blank, especially with it being as late as it is. So that wraps it up for me.
Yeah, I got nothing from this side. So we'll just, we'll wrap it up from here. Whether you guys listen to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whether you watch this on YouTube, definitely appreciate the support. Like always, we'll be dropping 2 new episodes next week. I don't know if it'll be a Monday thing next week. We might go back to our Tuesday drop for next week. Don't know what we're going to talk about yet. I know we mentioned in the episode that the draft is coming up, so that'll be in 2 weeks. We're still in the thick of it, of the NBA season. Still, I'd say probably halfway through the second half of the season at this point. So playoffs don't start until the middle of May, towards the end of May. So we are in the thick of things as far as the NBA goes, and MLB just started. So still got a long way to go with that. But
oh yeah, we'll definitely have more baseball content for you guys coming up for sure. To just throw something really quick. We had 2 no-hitters in the last week. We had 1 in San Diego, 1 in Chicago last night. Trust me, we're paying attention to the MLB. There's just so much going on, and there's literally a game every 5 seconds from what it seems like because of there being 162 games in the season. We will definitely do a deep dive in the next couple of weeks on, how the progression of the season is going by division. But like I said, we're not just paying attention to the Yankees, even though it does hurt to say we're not doing very well this season. But like I said, we're going to get into baseball the further the season goes along. We just don't feel like we need to continuously have baseball updates when there's just so many games. Basketball is different because seeding right now is changing. We have a lot of highlight plays. We have a lot of freaking MVP discussions because the season is getting closer to the end. But like I said, baseball, we're definitely going to have more content for sure coming up soon.
I do want to get a quick prayers up to Jamal Murray after he tore his ACL the other day. Just a really tough play. Just driving into the lane, took one too big of a step, and that was all she wrote for his knee. It really sucks because Jamal was having a pretty solid year for Denver.
Yeah, he'll probably be out pretty much all of next season, maybe. I mean, he's tearing it at the tail end of this season. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he misses at least half of next season.
It's April. He'll probably be back in January or February next year, if I had to guess.
Like I said, halfway.
Yeah.
Depending on how rehab goes, barring any setbacks.
And depending when they start the NBA season next year. We actually don't know when it's supposed to start.
Another valid point. Yes, sir.
So,
but I mean, other than that, guys, that's pretty much everything we have. One quick shout out. For those of you that remember, we had Dawson on the show about a month ago. His little brother just actually committed to Auburn University at Montgomery. So shout out to Landon. He'll be playing D1 soccer, and he'll be doing his thing out there. Landon is probably the more attractive one out of the 2 of them. I would probably say if I had to take one of those 2 boys out on a date, probably be Landon. But just for Dawson's purposes, Dawson had the opportunity to go out there and play some D1 sports, but we all know how that story goes. And by we all, I mean me and Dawson. Inside joke for when you listen to this on the car ride home. Hope you have a great day at work. But yeah, no, that's everything on my end, man. Thank you guys so much for the support as always. We just hit 140 subscribers this week. It's huge. Kyle and I's goal was to hit 150 by the end of April. It seems very attainable at the moment. So please, if you guys can, share, repost, freaking play it in the car when your friends are in the car, play it on the way home from work, play it at work if you can. The majority of the exposure we get typically comes from our already current subscribers sharing with others. So just please continue to share and support. We really do appreciate it. We can't thank you guys enough.
I can't wait for all the people that come out my head for saying Julian Edelman's possibly a Hall of Famer. I can't wait for it.
It's totally fine. I can't wait for people to come at me for saying that Reggie Wayne is better than Calvin Johnson. I'm here for it. You guys know where to find us. We're here for all these discussions, and we want all the smoke. So please bring that shit on.
I feel you. But with that said, that'll wrap it up from here, you guys. Once again, thank you guys for the support, and we will see you guys later next week.
See y'all later.